Hi, my name's Isaac. And this is a Dodge Viper. And today, I'm gonna review it for you guys. Now, this is a second generation Viper, but before I go into detail on this particular car, I'd like to give you a brief history on how the Viper originally came about. The year was 1988. The greatest Christmas movie of all time was in theaters. And the Chrysler Corporation was doing well off of the back of their K-Car platform, which had been very successful, though they were fairly boring and unattractive looking cars, and Chrysler had begun to lose its cool factor over the years. If only Chrysler knew what was to come. And then chief designer Tom Gale talked to then Chrysler president Bob Lutz about creating a car that would be like a modern take on the Shelby Cobra. Chrysler began working on the car, and a few years later, in January of 1992, the Dodge Viper finally made its debut, powered by a 400 horsepower Lamborghini co-developed V10 that was originally designed for Dodge pickups. And the Viper was fast, but it lacked a lot of things, like exterior door handles, air conditioning, or windows. The windows and roof were made of a canvas material that zipped on and off. It also lacked things that were maybe slightly more important for a rear-wheel drive 400 horsepower sports car, like traction and stability control, anti-lock brakes, and airbags. Yeah, there was no airbags. Now, the lack of safety features on the car meant that it saved a lot of weight, and for more experienced drivers, it made for a really thrilling car. But for less experienced drivers, they ran the risk of hitting a puddle too fast and spinning out.
It's too rainy today to take the Viper out.
Rainy? It's not raining. I'm just washing the windows.
I still don't know if I want to risk it.
Yet, the Viper continued to sell incredibly well, and it cemented itself in American culture. And by the time that this second generation came around, Dodge didn't just up the horsepower from 400 to 415, and then eventually to 450 by the end of the second generation on the RT10. They also added a roof, affectionately called the double bubble, and on this particular model, it's removable. Pretty easy process, you just have to pull a couple of latches, though it's a fairly heavy roof and it's really a two-person job to make this thing a convertible. They also added power windows and air conditioning. More importantly though, they finally added safety features like airbags. But Dodge still didn't add anti-lock brakes to the Viper until the 2001 model year. Safety wasn't exactly Dodge's top priority with this car. But who cares? The Viper is so effortlessly cool, it's easy to look over that lack of safety features. It's kind of like a guy in a movie catching and racking a shotgun. It doesn't matter what he says afterwards, it's just automatically gonna be cool. Let's kick these aliens' butts. You know, I was just thinking, if there was an Arby's closer to my house, I feel like I would go to Arby's more often. Underneath the hood on this particular Viper, it's powered by the 450 horsepower, 490 pound-foot of torque making 8-liter V10, which was almost the most powerful specifications from the factory on the second gen Viper. This is slightly edged out by the GT2 Champion Edition, which added an air filter, giving it 460 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Now, getting underneath the hood to actually look at that V10 engine is a little bit of a process. In your Honda Civic, you probably go underneath the steering column to pull a latch, and then you move up to the hood and push another latch, and then your hood opens up. But on the Viper, while technically you do pull two latches, it's a little bit different. Let me show you what I mean. You don't actually pull anything in the interior of the car. Instead, you go up to the front, you stick your hand in here, and there's a latch you pull down, and then right here, that opens this up. Then you push down a little, and that releases a spring, though the hood only opens up this far. And then what you do is you come back here and you pull up slowly on this back piece, and then you can bring the hood up here and it will sit right there, thus revealing the V10. Let's talk about this little guy real quick. This is Sneaky Pete, the badge for the 1992 to 2002 Vipers, and he is all over this car, like here and 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 here. I guess that's not technically on the car, but you know what I mean. Unfortunately, after doing a lot of research, I couldn't find exactly why he's called Sneaky Pete. It's just a nickname that happened to stick. And since Pete, every one of the Viper logos has had a little nickname. The 2003 to 2010 Vipers logo was referred to as Fangs, and the 2013 to 2017 logo is called Striker. Now, personally, I prefer Pete. Man, there's a tongue twister. But let me know what you guys think is the coolest one in the comment section below. Moving to the interior of the Viper. While it's fairly Spartan in here, it doesn't mean that there isn't still some cool features I'd like to highlight. Starting with the windshield wipers. You might be like, Isaac, you want to start with the windshield wipers? Yes, I do, because they have kind of a unique functionality that I don't see too often on cars. So if we turn this on here and flick the windshield wiper, you can see one goes this way, one goes that way. I've seen that pattern on certain vehicles, but it's very rare. It's not the traditional way. Now, my guess is they do that because of the way the windshield is angled, and that probably works more efficiently with how this slopes. That would be my guess. Another unique feature in here is the driver's seat has the seat belt in its traditional spot.
Okay.
But the passenger seat actually crosses the opposite way. And these sport kind of bucket racing seats really lend to the race car feel of this all-American sports car. And I just think that's so unique that the belt is there on that side. And then if we move over here, you'll have this circle, which is going to give you all your warning lights. It's also going to give you your upshift light, which I think is really cool that that's incorporated into there. You know, your headlight indicator is on that. And that frees up your center tach and speedometer right there. This little oval is where your turn signals are on the Viper. And then over here, you'll have some more gauges. I love to see that. It's just such, again, just such a cool race car feel. And then you'll have 3 vents. I have 4 fingers up. You'll have 3 vents in the center because you're not going to have any side vents right here because of the way that the door line slopes into the dashboard. Now, thankfully, this does have airbags in this particular Viper. As I mentioned, the previous generation didn't. It also has a key to turn off and on the passenger airbag, because back in the day, they didn't have sensors for it, and this was the workaround to do that. That's mostly something I see in cars from before I was born. We've come a long way in car safety in the last 20-some years, and it's just really neat to see on these older cars kind of how they implemented stuff like that in the infancy of things like federally mandated airbags. Now, there are a couple of aftermarket things in the center console, center tunnel area right here I'd like to highlight. Still cool. This carbon fiber is aftermarket. This is just a trim piece that's added on. This wasn't originally on the Viper from the factory, and neither was this head unit. That's obviously aftermarket as well. That would have been really ahead of its time to have something like this in the Viper. Something of note, though, with this head unit that I've never seen. So before I did car reviews, I worked at an electronics store and I sold car radios. And something like this would be considered a single DIN. And the other option would be a double DIN, which is about the size of this entire area right here if you included the climate controls. And that would be something like a touchscreen. This single DIN has a unique feature I've never seen. I never sold a radio like this. We just didn't sell them at my store, but I think it's really cool and it's worth pointing out. So if we throw this Viper into reverse really quick here, and I put this up on the screen, this little tiny screen has a backup camera. They've wired it through. That is so neat, very useful, and a way to get around not being able to fit a big touch screen in here. They still got a backup camera. Down down here, thankfully, again, you have power windows. Other quirky things, let's talk about the mirror really quick. So because this is a convertible and you can take off this roof, that's, I guess, what a convertible means. There is no map lights, no dome lights up here, but since this car comes from the era of people actually reading real maps, Dodge was like, well, we should put map lights in here. And so they've incorporated them into the bottom of the mirror right here. You can see, you just flick that little thing and there are map lights. I think that's really cool and a nice little unique touch to add in that functionality. One thing that is on the roof, though, is a little tiny storage pocket. This little thing is so cute. Not a lot of storage. Maybe you could put 2 pairs of sunglasses up here.
Not bad, not bad.
One other thing I'd like to talk about here in storage is this little cubby back here, where you can fit, you know, like your insurance information and your registration, just in a little packet like the one that the owner has in here. Not a lot of space though. And this does not have any, the center tunnel does not have any storage right there, taken up by your e-brake and everything else, but it does make for a nice armrest. And that is the interior of the 2nd gen Viper. All right, driving the Dodge Viper. Here we go. Got it on a big open stretch here. This is exciting. There's so much power behind this car. I understand why people would crash it. It's just so powerful, but it's also really low slung and it hugs the road. I love how wide it is. It just feels around turns so grippy. This car sounds incredible. There's definitely something, I think, that was done to the exhaust, modded aftermarket, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds fantastic. It's been a dream car of mine to be able to drive one of these for a long time. And so to be able to fulfill that is so cool. I mean, I'm just basically starstruck driving this car. So yeah, this is my driving segment of the car. I'm gonna switch over to a driving portion with the owner of this car, just to show you guys kind of why he bought it and what his mindset was behind that. So I am here with the owner of the Viper, Tommy Kiedis, my friend, and I figured we'd talk a little bit about why he got the Viper, what his choice was if he was between other cars, and how much he's enjoying it so far. So I guess I'll start with that. Why the Viper?
I've always loved the lines of a Viper, and Gen 2 to me is just, the lines are spectacular. It's prettier than Gen 3, and I can't afford a Gen 4.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. So that was kind of the car you were looking for when you set out to find one?
You know, it really is interesting. I have a brother-in-law that is has a Viper, a newer version, and he had sent me on to a website, Cars and Bids.
Yeah.
And so I was just happened to be cruising down the highway with Shannon, my wife, and looking at different cars that were up for bid, and happened to see this one.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I started to bid, and I don't know if I've told you the size of it, but I was in my last, it was in the last couple 3 minutes of the bid, and I was not toying around because I was serious about the car.
Yeah.
But I figured someone else would want it and it would go and I'd be fine. So I paid my very last bid.
Yes.
This was it. This is all I was going to spend.
Not doing anymore. Yeah.
Pressed enter and waited, assuming that certainly in that last 30 seconds somebody else would outbid me.
Yeah.
And it was down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and like,
Oh, you got it.
I just bought this car.
Wow.
So that's how we got it. It's fun to drive. We had it in Arkansas. We brought it here to PA. PA's great car culture. But the intention is keeping it long term, treating it as a vehicle to drive, but also as an investment. Most cars are not, but the numbers have been going up for it, so that's encouraging. It's fun to watch people enjoy cars.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a car story, so it's fun to be able to share that.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate you letting me review it.
Gladly.
All right.
That easy?
Yeah, that's easy.
Oh
That's
man,
it.
that was easy.
Oh, yeah. That is pretty much going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. But before I go, I'd like to mention that I am a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I would love to be able to pray for you guys. And lastly, I'm going to read a section of scripture. I like to close my videos out with this. Today we have Proverbs 10:12. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love covers all offenses. I originally was thinking about doing something with vipers, but I decided most of them are negative scripture passages and calling people vipers, and that's generally not a positive thing. And so I figured we'd end off with that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Hi. No, it's too high. Literally.
It's not raining. I'm just washing the windows.
Oh my god.
Good, and I'm working with a guy that knows editing, so I can mess up and we start again.
Yeah, exactly. Dodge didn't just, that's a tongue twister. Dodge didn't just, okay.
As an investment, most cars. That's right.
Whoopsie daisy. Nope. Okay. Oh! These bloopers are gonna be great.